Elite performance without pressure? Forget it. There is no such thing. The two are inseparable. If you want to excel, pressure is inevitable. And perhaps the most unique characteristic of the elite is that when the going gets tough, outlier performers flick the switch, regulate their emotion, and fight the urge to panic. Everyone that excels demonstrates phenomenal emotional control. They have developed the ability to emerge from crisis triumphant, stronger than when they went in. Emotional control can be defined as the ability to monitor, evaluate, and modify your emotional reactions to the ever-changing demands that elite performance, and let's face it, life bring. To perform when it counts is the measure of elite performance. 10 years of work can come down to 10 crucial seconds, whether that's in World Cup finals, major tournaments, product launches, live television, the leading role, final exams. You may have spent months or even years getting to that point. Ultimately, you'll be judged on your ability to deliver in that single moment. Now, few of us have experienced boxing in a world title fight, building a billion-dollar company, or flying fighter jets, but you can probably relate to choking under pressure. Everyone listening, from school student to professor, novice to Olympian, graduate to CEO, one time or another has choked under pressure. When the stakes are high, sometimes the only thing you do effectively is hit the self-destruct button. And the way your mind can commit acts of mutiny against you can be an infuriating experience. Not only that, you've almost definitely experienced the frustration over not consistently performing the way you know you are capable. The pressure isn't the problem. It's how you react to it that can be. Do you stay calm and collected, or do you start to overthink your performance and capitulate? The fact is, when the stakes are high, one of the biggest risks for any individual or team is that you bottle it, and you cannot simply train harder to prevent it. There comes a time where all that matters is your ability to deliver on all your potential and demonstrate all the skill you've acquired when it matters most, on demand and under pressure. Not everybody can. It doesn't matter that you have a 100% success rate scoring penalties in practice. The only thing that counts is that you score that one single penalty in extra time in that World Cup final against the Germans. Luckily, emotional control is a skill. And like any skill, it can be developed with the right strategy and effort. The good news is that your emotions are built by you, not built into you. You possess an unbelievable tool, your brain, which can make you confident, it can move you from panic to calm, and it can switch you off from the world completely if and when required. But this all starts with understanding what goes on behind your eyes that causes you to perform so poorly or so well. If you don't know how your brain works, it's only natural to feel like the victim when negative emotions strike. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about now. The tool I'm about to introduce you to is the best way I know to upskill people in the absolute basics of performance psychology and emotional control. I've used this tool effectively with Champions League winning footballers, world champion boxers, elite military commanders, top hedge fund managers and CEOs, and now with you. It will be as effective for you as it has been for them. This model was famously inspired by the famous circumplex model of emotion. I want you to imagine a circle separated into 4 zones with a horizontal axis that dictates the quality of your emotions. Left side negative, right side positive. And the vertical axis, this dictates your output and focus of your energy and attention. At the bottom, we've got a low output of energy and attention and a low focus. And at the top, being high output, high focus. Think charged fire hose through the eye of a needle at the top. And at any point in time, you'll find yourself in one of these zones. I color code them: blue, red, black, and green. Each zone has a unique inbuilt psychological and biological function that dictates how you think, how you feel, how you act, and ultimately perform. Only one is optimal when it's time to perform, and that's blue head. When it's time to compete or perform, the number one aim has to be to get into top right. You want a high output of energy, laser focused on the task at hand, and you want to be feeling good about it. Psychologists call it flow, athletes call it the zone. I refer to it as blue head. And when you're in blue head, you just know there is a lightness, energy radiates through your body, and you're totally locked in to the moment. Adjectives that might describe how you might feel in here are excited, confident, and motivated, among others. Or as one of the outliers I've worked with put it best, I feel like a god in here. Your presence in blue head is exclusively in the here and now. There is zero worrying about the past or anxiety about the future. I personally feel like I'm plugged into a nuclear reactor in this zone. And if you're like me, you'll dream about these moments. This for me is the true thrill of excellence. The blue zone prompts the secretion of the super 6 neurochemicals that drive all elite performance. Norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, anandamide, and oxytocin. They release in perfect symphony, the right sequence, right concentration, and at the right time. So, what are the benefits? Why is this so important? These chemicals direct blood flow to your unconscious brain and unlock what we call your critical faculty barrier. Luckily for you all, your skills are stored in your unconscious brain as advanced mental structures. They're like spiders' webs of knowledge you can literally see on very expensive brain scans. Your unconscious brain is where these mental structures or skills are stored for automatic and rapid deployment. In live performance, situations unfold so fast, there is zero time for analysis. Luckily for you, your unconscious brain already knows what you need to do. Your unconscious is the source from which all peak performance will flow. And your critical faculty barrier is like a gate between your conscious and unconscious mind that allows your skill to deploy. When open, it gives you total access to your skill. Again, assuming it's open, and in blue head, it is. Everything amazing you've ever done, even if once, reflects your actual ability, your advanced mental structures that are in there somewhere. What will dictate whether you're able to access those abilities will be your ability to flick the switch, access blue head, and allow all your skill to flow out of you. And this is why when it's time to compete, flicking the switch and accessing blue head is the first crucial psychological skill you must develop. The second benefit of blue head is that these neurochemicals give you total access to your psychological firepower. In this zone, your brain gives you all the good chemicals. The confidence, motivation, and resilience we all know drives your success. In blue head, it flows out of you. The third benefit is that in this zone, your potential becomes expandable. Blue head is no accident. There is an evolutionary reason behind this chemical symphony of indestructibility. We call it broaden and build. This elusive state enhances your ability to acquire skill. Your brain and body become more responsive to training, maximizing the resources around you and developing innovative solutions to overcome challenges that impede your growth. The fourth and final benefit, and an important one, you know all that stuff you know you should do, whatever that might be for you, rehab, meditation, sticking to the plan, getting to bed on time, eating clean, getting to the gym, doing those extra bits that give you an edge. All that gets done in blue head. And for all these reasons, blue head is where all the magic happens. When it's time to train and compete, you need to be able to flick the on switch and access this powerful zone. The first psychological skill you must master. If a guided example of a blue head performance routine that acts as that on switch would be useful for you, check out the link in the show notes. If this is landing good, that means you're ready. This isn't entertainment, it's your edge. Use it. Hit like, subscribe, let's move. Now we come to psychological skill 2. We're going to talk about redhead. So, You're locked into blue head, delivering on demand under pressure. And then all of a sudden, whack, you get a metaphorical kick in the pants. This could be one of 1,000 things. A bad call from the referee, the market crashing, icy stares from the audience, or bullets cracking and thumping past your skull. Obviously, depending on your performance environment. The risk here is that these events trigger redhead. Redhead is activated when you perceive that the demands you're facing exceed your capacity to deal with them. In these circumstances, your emotional brain triggers redhead. The color red is associated with threat, fear, and danger. Terms like red mist, red lining, seeing red represent anger, shock, frustration. And it's the precise opposite of blue head. And you can see it. You'll generally see flaring nostrils, sweeping arms, sharp gestures that say it all. In redhead, you run hot, burn up, become overwhelmed and tense. Your emotional engine is metaphorically smoking. Your perception's slow. The game starts to run away from you. Your decision making becomes rushed and irrational, and you close in on meltdown. When stress hits, your emotional brain will always act first. Your heart will begin to pound, your teeth will grind, and your body will tense up. Your emotional brain is way more powerful and reacts faster than your unconscious or frontal brain. And the risk is you trade in your steely blue head for an emotional red-headed freakout. From a hormonal perspective, you switch out the super 6 high performance neurochemicals for the frustrating 3 stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. When these flood your body, your power supply is pulled from your unconscious and frontal brain, forcing them to shut down. And now your emotional brain is in the driving seat. And unfortunately, it's the do-it-yourself lobotomy. It's your emotional brain that blurts out absolute drivel while your frontal brain is left thinking, why the hell did I just say that? Or do that? Anytime you have irrational thoughts or feelings, your emotional brain is running the show. Your emotional brain has evolved over 2 million years as a survival mechanism whose primary purpose is to keep you alive. For our caveman ancestors, failure meant death. Whether that was escaping a saber-toothed tiger, failing to be accepted by the tribe, or propagating the species, whatever it was, your emotional brain absolutely had to be alert to the danger and threats and make sure you acted on it rapidly. And on the other side of this, as great as it was for our ancestors to find an apple, catch a rabbit, not finding the apple or catching the rabbit was nowhere near as catastrophic as not escaping the saber-toothed tiger. And this is why your emotional brain has evolved such a heightened sensitivity to threat and such an enormous capacity for negative emotion, over 3 times the intensity of positive emotion we feel. We call this loss aversion bias, and it's why the intensity of fear emotions like losing the game, pitch, capital are 3 to 5 times greater than the positive emotion we feel for succeeding. Here is the absolute killer though. When that switch that channels the power supply to your emotional brain is left on, your critical faculty barrier slams shut and you lose access to all the skill and ability you've spent years encoding in the unconscious part of your brain. Your advanced mental structures. Unconscious skill execution stops. Temporarily, you become a novice again. Logical thinking stops and you choke. And the worst part about choking is it tends to spiral. As you begin to fixate on worst case scenario, adrenaline rockets through you. You end up second guessing skills that have been honed through years of practice. And this is exactly what's going on when you're perhaps watching the golfer on TV who capitulates on the 18th hole. They start to perceive the threat, whether that's the crowd, the media, the realization that their life's work could come down to this one shot. And they start to make the event bigger than the action. And this is what creates a perceived demand capacity gap. not an actual demand capacity gap. Perceive is the key word here. They perceive the demand capacity gap. And when they do, they trigger redhead, lose access to their skill, and the risk is they choke. They don't suddenly just forget how to play the game of golf. And going back to the drawing board and training harder for longer will not fix this. The skill is not the problem. It's your ability to access it that is. It's a psychological problem. The second problem with redhead is that you know all that stuff you know you shouldn't do, that you sometimes do. Cutting corners, skipping your process, binge eating, right up to alcohol, gambling, drugs. You only ever engage in that stuff in redhead. In redhead, you feel negative and you're hardwired to crave some form of instant gratification. So you unconsciously seek it. And that's why all this stuff becomes appealing. The next problem here is that spending time in redhead is not just to the detriment of your performance, but also your health. Most of the time, the event you initially anticipated that sent you into redhead never materializes. Consequently, after redlining for prolonged periods, the stress hormones adrenaline, cortisol, noradrenaline flooding your body, and they're linked to virtually every major disease. And this is why my second focus, and the focus of any leader performer in terms of optimizing performance, is ensuring that when redhead inevitably strikes, because it will, no one gets to avoid this, the performer, the organization, is equipped to identify it fast and has the capability to flick the control switch and bounce back into bluehead as soon as possible. And here's a quick key point. Mastering emotional control always starts with the fundamentals. If you're not performing from your sweet spot, pursuing concordant goals, you'll really struggle to access top right in terms of bluehead. And you will be way more vulnerable to getting sucked into redhead. And if those concepts are new to you, again, check out the link in the show notes. You need to start there. Even emotional control really starts with the conversations we have in those links. And therefore, you're going to experience lots of demand capacity imbalance simply because you don't have the capacity to meet the demand that will be imposed on you. And all of this is why concordant goals and then world-class training, skill acquisition always comes first. Again, all the meditation, positive thinking, sleep, ice baths, performance routines, which we will talk about, their effects are completely nullified if you aren't getting these fundamentals right first. And as with bluehead, if you would like a redhead performance routine that acts as a control switch you can flick in those moments, check the link in the show notes too. The best don't guess. They run systems, gold medalists, special forces commanders, billion-dollar investors. In Accelerating Excellence, the podcast, they break down how. Link below. Then we have zone 3. Spend too much time in redhead and eventually you'll burn through your reservoirs of energy, physically, emotionally, and mentally. Welcome to the dark. Your brain and body can become so drained and toxic, they just collapse. Here, there's no energy left, no focus, and you feel really bad. When you're unable to detoxify after a stressful event and then you're exposed to more stress, your brain and body will eventually break down and burn out. The emotions that engulf us in the dark are, amongst others, helplessness, hopelessness, detachment, and misery. You'll start losing interest, isolating, withdrawing from responsibilities, excessively procrastinating, feeling like you're failing, doubting yourself, doubting your role in life. You'll experience random, irrational, negative thoughts and neurosis about things that probably never previously troubled you. And this is perhaps one of the greatest signs that you're in this zone. In here, you'll probably feel overworked, undervalued, apathetic, and you'll struggle to see hope of change. It's hard to see in the dark. Symptoms in here are pathological. We're talking high blood pressure, anxiety, depression, sleep disorders, migraines, autoimmune disease, even strokes and heart attacks. And of course, if you're an athlete at the physical level, this is where you start to get injured, stress fractures, sprains, strains. The thing with this one is burnout doesn't just hit you like the kick in the pants redhead delivers. You don't suddenly wake up one morning and feel burnt out. Instead, it's insidious, creeping up on you over time. And this can make awareness challenging. Both professional and lifestyle challenges can produce burnout. Professional causes tend to revolve around lack of concordance with or little or no control over your work. No routine is another one. Lack of recognition too. Unclear expectations another. Monotonous work will do it. Lack of challenge will do this. Operating in unrelenting chaos will also do it too. Lifestyle causes of burnout can include lack of recovery, shitty sleep, insufficient downtime, crappy nutrition, social isolation, lack of supportive relationships, taking on too much, not asking for help, and an inability to say no. You must limit redhead to avoid black. And the good news is that through simply reversing these conditions, you can begin the recovery process immediately and get back on top fast. Too many consecutive days trapped in this zone means it's time for you to take action. This is a completely reversible state for you, but you need to call a timeout. Maybe tell someone you trust, ideally someone who will listen, not judge you. And if ever you're in that zone, I implore you to do that. The pressing question now becomes, how do you prevent burnout? And the short answer is by flicking the off switch. Enter the fourth and final zone, greenhead. The third crucial psychological skill outliers master is flicking this off switch. Your off switch, when flicked, moves you straight into greenhead. Now, greenhead is not only the antidote to red and black, it's where you sharpen the axe. It's the zone of restoration, recovery, rejuvenation, and most importantly, growth. Green zone is where you renew and expand your capacity to meet the demands performance and life will impose on you. Now, for some, this can be a siesta in the sun. It could be watching Game of Thrones. It could be laughing and joking with friends. It could be time with family. It could be 1,000 things. But whatever it is, it will be uniquely personal to you. One person's greenhead action could be another person's redhead action. Now, emotions that characterize this zone include serenity, contentment, peace. The only real rule is that you're not allowed out of first gear emotionally or mentally. And physically, perhaps, if you're in a physically demanding performance role, athlete, operator, as an example, in here, the aim is you're not really focusing on anything and you feel good. Now, you know that you need challenge to change. To increase your capacity to handle stress, you need to expose yourself to the demands of live performance, be it physical, mental, or emotional. And you do that in training and competition. And it's this exposure that's your brain and body's stimulus to adapt to that higher level. Stress is the spark that triggers all the physical and psychological adaptations that result in growth. But growth itself does not occur in the training room, on the pitch, or in the boardroom. You can only expand your ability in green zone. It's in this recovery zone that you actually adapt and improve physically and mentally. Rest and recovery is the other crucial side of competing and training. And elite performers know this. They get it right. We call this process supercompensation. And supercompensation can be defined as the adaptations that result in advanced abilities that can only be achieved through sufficient quantity and quality of rest. Yes, there are two dimensions to rest. Your growth will always be proportionate to the quantity and quality of your recovery. And that's why my third aim is that the second you're no longer competing or training, we need to get you straight into green zone and maximize the quality of your recovery. A massive part of optimizing performance is about finding the correct balance between performing work, blue head and red, and recovery, green. And again, for an example of an off switch performance routine, check the link in the show notes. Excellence is no accident. It's engineered. If you're serious about becoming everything you're capable of, accelerating excellence is your blueprint. No more guesswork. The system's in the book, link below. So, flicking the on switch and accessing Bluehead when it's time to compete and train, or flicking the control switch when you're shunted into Redhead, and then flicking the off switch to access Greenhead when it's time to rest and regenerate and grow, is what emotional control is all about. These are the three crucial skills, and this is what outlier performers do best at the psychological level. With this level of emotional control, successful performance becomes a series of exciting, explosive bouts of training and competing, interspersed with enjoyable periods of rest and recovery. It's that oscillation between blue and green head. Now, you can check in and use this tool in acute situations like during a game, working day, or on a military operation. You can also check in chronologically across tournaments, seasons, and careers. I recommend doing both. And personally, I have this tool almost etched into the front of my skull, and I'm consciously attending to where I am versus where I want to be. Now, in elite performance, the difference in ability is so tight at the top, and it often comes down to who can do this best. Yet so many individuals and organizations fail to psychologically prepare and develop these mental skills. A massive proportion of your failures will directly link to insufficient focus and attention on these three psychological skills. In terms of the elite performance organizations and individuals I've had the privilege to work with, everywhere, everyone talks about how powerful and how psychological it is at the top. Yet none of them, at first at least, engage the proportionate time and effort to develop these crucial psychological skills. And they pay an enormous price for that in terms of performance, and a failure to realize and capitalize on what they're truly capable of if they were to actually get this right. Now, if you are someone who struggles to manage your emotions, maybe it's just in one of these areas I've mentioned, it's not because of insufficient willpower, discipline, or even knowledge. It's because you've probably never taken the time to reflect on how your thoughts and actions impact how you feel and perform, let alone perfect the routines that are running you all day. You know that performance is never a coincidence. And the good news is you can use intentional intervention to build out personalized routines that act as switches you can flick when the moment requires, whether that's hitting redhead, being stuck in bluehead and it's time to switch off. And all of this puts you in the driving seat when it comes to managing your emotions and optimizing your performance. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Just like you have components of physical fitness, power, endurance, agility, strength, cardiovascular fitness, coordination, and so on. For me, these are the three components of psychological fitness in terms of elite performance that I absolutely want to master personally and professionally with everyone I work with. To conclude, there are three psychological skills you must build. First, being the on switch. This is where you plug into your unconscious brain, which is the source of all elite performance, where all your skills are stored and has you firing on all cylinders in terms of your psychological firepower. The second being the control switch. This is activated when you notice your emotional brain taking charge, when panic potentially sets in, and when flicked, the control switch hands back the power supply to your unconscious or frontal brain. Third is the off switch. This unplugs all three brains completely, frontal, unconscious, and emotional, so that you can detach and relax and reap the benefits that recovery, rest, and relaxation bring. These switches are as important as any technical skill, not only for the purpose of performing well, but also for the sake of having a life. When you learn to flick each switch, you maximize your performance along with your quality of life and health, alongside and after achievement, which should always be the aim. Again, flicking the switch is a skill, and like any skill, it can be developed. When practiced, you can supersede your natural impulse to panic, and you can become the master of your emotions instead of their servant. The paradox is that most likely you rarely think about training psychological skills the same way you train technical or physical skills. But you must remind yourself that, like any skill, you must invest methodology, time, and energy to develop and maintain this psychological capacity. So, how do you build these switches you can flick? Performance routines. Performance routines act as the switches you can flick. Performance routines comprise a series of actions that generate your desired emotional state. The sequence of your thoughts and actions is what generates the emotions you experience. And if you change the routine, the type and sequence of your thoughts and actions you engage in, you can change the results, which brain you switch on, what emotions you feel, and what actions you engage in. Just like tuning a radio to that perfect frequency, executing a routine tunes you into the optimal emotions that your performance requires. Performance routines are punctuated by a very deliberate set of actions, each with a clear purpose to give you control over your emotions. Having a clear process to follow mitigates the tendency to dwell in the moment and overthink, which prevents the power supply from diverting to your emotional brain. Routines put you in charge, switching you from reactive to proactive, bringing focus and calm, even when the outside is chaos and disorder. The perfect routine will be unique to you, your challenges, your experiences, your environment, your personality. Excellence is highly personal, and so are your emotions. But all great routines follow some very predictable patterns. If this is resonating with you and is somewhere you feel you can optimize, then what I recommend you do next is watch the performance routines video. The link is in show notes. These links contain examples to guided routines you can use to build out your own, or you can even just use these. As you use these routines, they will start to change the patterns of thoughts and actions that you engage in a way that develops these skills. Or you can just use them, identify which aspects resonate with you, and create your own bespoke performance routines. The guided routines outline the series of steps that outliers I've worked with personally undertake to regulate negative emotions like anxiety, fear, frustration, anger when they set in, so that they can bounce back fast and do what they do best, perform. In terms of some other immediate actions, I would encourage some reflection. First up, what takes you into redhead? And what can you do to stop it? Is there a commute you can alter, a person you can stop spending time with, or a habit you can break? Again, link to how to break habits in the show notes. What takes you into greenhead? How do you schedule more of that? Is there an enjoyable activity, a person you like spending time with, a place you can go? Make it happen. When are you in bluehead? Can you do more of that? What's unique about those moments? What tasks activate you? What responsibilities do you thrive on? And which people bring this out in you? And if you find yourself in black, who might you let know? Is there a friend, colleague, coach, family member? Think of someone just in case. But remember, if you take the time to answer those questions above, then it's unlikely you're going to struggle with that anyway. My favorite thing about this tool is it demystifies your emotions. The colors on the barometer have a very specific purpose. They form a shared performance language. Like all shared languages, enables us to connect and communicate in this area much better than we probably currently do. You can use this code to inform a teammate that you're redlining, or to reinforce through award a performer who stays blue under pressure, just like a coach might reinforce a technical skill performed well. Or by just saying, I'm in red at the moment. Everyone's now clear where you are emotionally and can then assist you to flick the switch. If anything we've talked about here resonated with you, then get stuck in immediately and start developing these crucial psychological skills. They are yours to take, and the rewards for doing so will be enormous, not just for the sake of performance, but for your quality of life too. So get stuck in and make it happen. Those who excel, they don't hesitate. They move fast, on principle, with intent. Lessons become action. Action becomes momentum. Momentum becomes explosive growth. Start now. Attack your day, win it, repeat. Performance shifts, then mindset, then life. Excellence isn't theory, it's fuel, the most powerful force on earth. Chase it down. If this hit, pass it on. Someone out there's waiting for it. I'm in this to see you win. Comments open, links below, like, subscribe. Let's move.